Yes.
that, that
He's
John
rowed the
wrote in
boat to
school.
Singapore. He's in
Oh
Singapore.
yes, he did. That's right, he did. You know. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, King Louis and all those assembled. It must be Friday, and if it's Friday, it's Stories for Children. And today we have Ursha Van Katterman. And I just messed up her name. I was close, though. And magnificent storyteller. May have to leave us a little bit early because of situations, but she is going to grace us with stories that only she can grace us with. So, without further ado, or don't, Usha, it is your. I keep wanting to put an R in your name.
Usha, Usha.
Usha,
Yeah.
Usha. You know, that's
Thank
almost
you,
like a rap
Baba
beat.
C. Usha Venkatraman. Thank you. So nice to see you, King Louis, as well as Norman Perrin, and hi to whoever is there at World Storytelling Cafe. It's good to be back after about 6 months. I'm Usha Venkatraman from Mumbai, India. So, good evening, good night, or maybe good morning, and namaste. So let me start with today. My story bag has stories from India. Just like you have Aesop's fables, which are teaching tales, we have Panchatantra stories. Now, Panchatantra stories are a timeless collection of ancient Indian fables because they teach valuable lessons through the actions of animals and humans. So, there is a story behind how Panchatantra tales came to be. So, thousands of years ago, there was a king who had three young princesses. They refused to go to school, they wanted to play, they did not study, and he was worried day and night. He wondered how he could teach them. So there was a very wise man in the kingdom called Vishnu Sharma. So he approached him and he told the wise man that his sons refused to study. And Vishnu Sharma, being a scholar, said, "Don't worry, I will teach them through stories." So he began to tell them stories. And this was an engaging method, and the young princesses loved it. And they learnt a lot through stories, as we all storytellers can vouch for it. So, Pandit Vishnu Sharma, the scholar, created a set of stories and he cleverly wove lessons into those tales, which taught them to think critically, to understand people, to make wise decisions. He had a very unique method and he turned the young princesses into wise and capable leaders in a couple of years. So, some of the famous Panchatantra tales, the one famous one is about the monkey and the crocodile, which I've heard in other parts of the world. I've heard a similar story in Southeast Asia, in Africa, and I'm sure that folk tales do travel and they may have different characters, but essentially the framework is the same. So that's how Panchatantra stories came to be. Now, if you see, Baba C has a beautiful elephant right behind on his screen. So I'm going to be sharing two stories from Panchatantra. Once there lived a washerman and he had a donkey. They both lived in a village. During the day, the donkey would carry the washerman's bags on his back. Basically, all the dirty clothes that needed to be laundered. During the night, the washerman would set the donkey free in the field to eat grass. However, the donkey would sneak into the nearby farms and eat fresh vegetables that grew there because he liked fresh vegetables. Not all the time eating grass, right? One day, while he was wandering, he met a jackal. They became friends, and the donkey invited the jackal to join him on his rendezvous at night. So they both started meeting every night. By daybreak, the donkey would be back home. This went on for many days. One day, the jackal said, "Uncle, I discovered a new field with ripe, juicy cucumbers not very far off. Why don't we go there and feast on those cucumbers? I'm sure I will also find some small animals for myself. Let's go there tonight." So they made a plan, and both of them went to feast on those juicy cucumbers. The donkey feasted to his full and said, "Nephew, I'm so happy today. Look at the full moon. It is so beautiful that it makes me want to sing. I want to sing." And the jackal said, "Uncle, no, 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 no. We are stealing from this field. We cannot make ourselves heard. If you sing, the farmers will wake up, come running, and they will chase us and beat us black and blue." Now the donkey was annoyed. "A wild animal like you cannot understand, appreciate music. I will show you what real music sounds like," said the donkey, and he was adamant to sing. Now the jackal saw that the donkey was determined to sing, so he made haste. He said, "Uncle, if you want to sing, so be it. Please wait till I go out of the field so that I can keep an eye on the farmers." Saying this, the jackal ran out and hid himself. And the donkey began to sing. He lifted his face up to the moon and started braying at the top of his voice. The farmers woke up, and in the light of the full moon, they could clearly see that donkey standing in the field with those ripe, juicy cucumbers. They chased him with sticks and stones and beat him black and blue. As the donkey limped out of the field, the jackal came out of his hiding place and laughed and said, "Ha, uncle, now that was very nice singing indeed. I see that the farmers have rewarded you very well." And he laughed. So, like I said, like Aesop's fables, these are teaching tales, and this tale teaches us that there is a time and place for everything. And singing in the field at night, looking at the full moon, was not the best option, right? You would agree with me. Now, I would like to jump to another story. Would you like to say something, Baba
Well,
Sikh? Any
I was just going to say, first of all, I enjoyed the story. And you mentioned how stories seem to travel all over the world. And I had to do a story from Brazil. And in the midst of researching, I realized it was an Anansi story, but it was told as a monkey story with monkey being the trickster. So you're right. And I've heard, excuse me, similar stories. In fact, I've heard a similar story to the one you just told with African or African American roots. So, yes, and that's the beauty of stories. They begat and propagate more stories. And now I'm going to attempt to be quiet and allow you to proceed.
No, no, no. I would love to listen from you. So I'm going to jump to another story. Recently, we celebrated Rabindranath Tagore's birth anniversary. See, Rabindranath Tagore was, for those who don't know, he was a Nobel laureate. He was a master in literature. He was a master storyteller, a poet, a playwright. And this story, I heard this from a friend of mine, and I loved it because the title of the story goes like this: Looking for Inspiration. Now, we all storytellers look for inspiration. We are in search of good stories to tell and share. So, this is Rabindranath Tagore's own story. And when he was a young boy, say about 8 or 9 years old, and he was called Roby. So one day, Roby had one of those days where he was feeling sad. He dreaded to think about it because he found it difficult to get through. He wished that this day would never come, but they did every once in a while. It was one of those days when Roby couldn't find the most valuable thing in the world: inspiration. He was sad. On the days Roby couldn't find inspiration, his notepad went into deep slumber because blank pages. His pen refused to walk on paper, and his thumbs just twiddled idly. Roby started looking for inspiration. He began searching for it hither and yonder. Where could she be? Oh, where could she be? Inspiration. She eludes me. Where could she be? Maybe she's gone for a walk in the garden, Ruby thought. Inspiration likes fresh air, doesn't she? In the garden, Roby found inspiration. He had found in the past inspiration time and again, sometimes sitting on a champa flower. Champa is a very Indian flower, very fragrant, and I don't know what is the counterpart in the English language. It's very fragrant. Okay, it grows during the summer, sometimes hanging upside down from the mango tree. That is inspiration. And sometimes chasing a bushy tailed squirrel. Roby had found inspiration in the past. But today Roby went to the garden, looked around, but inspiration was nowhere to be found. Maybe inspiration has gone for a swim, he thought, in the nearby stream. Inspiration has a thing for places cool and calm. Roby knew that. Roby had found inspiration in the running stream exactly 2.5 times before. Not once, not twice, 2.5 times before. The first time, she was riding a paper boat that a little girl had launched down the stream. The second time, she was resting on the sun rays mirrored on the surface of the water. And the half time, Roby almost found her behind a pebble before she hid elsewhere. So, 2.5 times. Maybe she's on the terrace, Roby thought. Inspiration likes seeing things in a different light, up in the open blue sky. Terrace is where Roby had found inspiration last monsoon. She was taking long flights in the cloudy sky on the back of a little bird. Imagination. Do you think Roby found inspiration out in the terrace? He ran up the stairs to the terrace and looked around. There were pigeons, there were crows, there were some miners or sparrows, as you call them. But he didn't find inspiration. There was no trace of imagination and no sign of inspiration either. Oh, yes, I know where inspiration can be, Roby exclaimed. In the library, of course, in the library. Inspiration likes to be fed all the time, just like we like to be fed. Our stomach growls and says, feed me, feed me. Inspiration loves to go to the library and likes to be fed. So Roby went to the library. And books are inspiration's favorite things to nibble on. Books thick and thin, books old and new, Books that question, books that answer, books that stir ideas, books that stretch them. Roby sprinted straight to the library. Roby brought down the shelves after shelves of books. He flipped through the pages right from the beginning till the end, but inspiration? She was elusive as ever. Maybe I'll find inspiration again, Roby thought to himself. Never again. He was fed up, exhausted. Roby dragged himself to his room to lie on his bed. He plopped down on his bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. Before he knew, he had drifted off to sleep. The next morning, the first rays of the sun teased Roby's eyelids open. Half asleep, he started opening all the doors and the windows to let the new day in. Just as he opened the front door of his house, guess what he saw? Floating on the tiniest dewdrop, on the smallest sheaf of paddy grain, in the greenest rice field, was inspiration. Roby took out his notebook and his fingers itched to write. His pen whirled on paper. Roby captured inspiration in these words before he lost her again. I have gone to see the mountains, the oceans I have been to view, but I failed to see that lay not 2 steps from my home on a sheaf of paddy grain, glistening drop of dew, a glistening drop of dew. He wrote that on the blank page of his notepad. Roby had found inspiration at last. Now I would like to ask you, where do you find inspiration? I find inspiration when I go for a morning walk, early
I find
morning walk.
I find inspiration when I hear great storytellers like you.
Thank you, Norman. So, this is
No,
actually
oh,
Tagore's own story. He wrote about because as a young boy, Tagore was an author, a musician, a poet, playwright. He was looking for inspiration. So, this is a story. A wonderful storyteller has penned the poem into a story form. And this is a book for children, actually. So I just laid my hands on this a couple of days ago, and I thought it is a beautiful story to talk about inspiration. Now, another story about Rabindranath Tagore, thank you, Norman, is one of my favorite stories that I happened to share with a group of school children. The story is titled Postmaster. It is one of Tagore's short stories. Now, this is also inspired by his own experience. This was in 1890s. Tagore traveled to East Bengal. Today we call that Bangladesh, but East Bengal was part of India. So, The Postmaster is a story also written by him, a short story, which I think also talks about his own experience. So, the story is set in a fictional village, and a young postmaster comes to work in that village of Ulapur. It's called Ulapur. So, in a small, sleepy village nestled among verdant hills, and there is a beautiful Padma river or the Brahmaputra. The river Brahmaputra has many names, so it's called Padma here. And a young postmaster had been newly posted. There was a Britisher, an Englishman, who had opened an indigo factory. So he thought he needed to stay connected, to communicate, with the world. So he decided to open a post office and had got a new postmaster from the city of Calcutta. So this postmaster was a young man in his late 20s, had never lived anywhere in rural India. He was city bred. And when he was posted in this small, quiet, sleepy village with a river running close by, surrounded by hills, thick wood, and forests, he was not happy. He never settled. He longed for the hustle and bustle of the city life. Now, the post office and his house both were in the same house. He had a thatched house, a thatched roof over a kind of a better than a cottage, and that's where he lived. He ran the post office. Now, his house was atop a small hill, and the postmaster could see the village from his home. And he would sit in the window, try to write poetry. Actually, the surroundings should have inspired him, right? There is a lot of inspiration in nature. But he longed for the city life and he could never settle. And remember, this was 1890s. India was a British colony, and we had the colonial construct. So there was this uh, class, social differences. The postmaster did not want to mingle with the working class, so he kept himself aloof. He was an Indian, but having grown up in the city, he just couldn't bring himself to go and mingle with the villagers. Now, there was a young girl called Ratan who came to work for him. She would cook for him, clean the house, she would draw water for his bath, she would light up his pipe in the evening, she would cook, clean, sweep, and do all the general housework. Now, let me describe Ratan. Ratan was just entering into adolescence, about 13 or 14, a very pretty young woman, full of beans, as just adolescents and youngsters can be, a simple village girl. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, was left unruly. She tied it with a cloth band, and then she had a sari that was frayed at the edges that covered her thin frame. But she was full of smiles and her eyes gleamed. She was curious. And Ratan loved lying out in the garden looking up at the sky. In the evening, she would like to see the stars coming up, count them, and then she would listen to the birds coming back home to roost. And then she would also see a herd of deer in the forest getting ready for a moonlight excursion. She would look at little insects, the smallest bugs, beetles, creatures or pachyderms, as ants that would scurry down, at the bottom of the tree or shrubs, and she would have a half-eaten guava in her hand, and she would sing songs and just enjoy nature. And then the postmaster, or Dak Babu, as he was called, would say, Ratan, Kothai, where are you, Ratan? He would call. And she would say, Ashi, Dak Babu, Ashi, I'm coming, I'm coming. And she would run to him to go and light the pipe. Now, Ratan would talk to him 19 to the dozen. She would ask him questions about the city life, and the Dak Babu, or the postmaster, would share everything about his life. She was his companion. And as Ratan listened to the postmaster, she would wonder with awe, oh, Dak Babu, take me to the city one day. And the postmaster would laugh and say, what would you do in the city, Ratan? She said, don't worry, I will find a job. You don't have to worry about me, she would tell the Dag Babu. And this continued for many days. Ratan would sing lovely songs and she would say, "See, Dag Babu, the villagers are all celebrating. Come, why don't you come and join them?" But he demurred and he wouldn't want to go there at all. Days passed, weeks passed, months passed, seasons changed, and the monsoons came. And with the rain, the postmaster fell sick. One day he didn't get out of the bed, and Ratan came to see what was wrong. And she touched his forehead, and it was burning. Ratan rushed to the village. She got the doctor, and the doctor attended. And then Ratan, day and night, from a young girl, she became a mother, a nurse. She nursed the postmaster back to health. It took a couple of weeks. She would prepare gruel, she would prepare some kind of soup, she would make different food that one can feed that ailing man, and slowly the postmaster recovered his health. By now, he had made up his mind that he wanted to get transferred from this village. So he applied for his transfer. Meanwhile, Postmaster and Ratan had grown very close because this sickness had really bonded them very close. He started to teach her English. He started to teach her vowels, consonants, words, and slowly Ratan was a very bright girl, fast learner. She learnt the language quickly. And one day, finally, a letter arrived. The postmaster read the letter and he was very sad because his promotion, his transfer had been denied. The postmaster decided he will quit his job and go back to Calcutta. So that evening, when Ratan was filling up his pipe, he told Ratan, "Ratan, I am leaving tomorrow. When the steamer boat comes, I am leaving tomorrow." And she said, "Dag Babu, take me with you. What will I do here?" Because she was an orphan. She was a destitute girl. Her parents had died and she was just growing up in the village with, distant relatives. But the Dag Babu said, "How can I take you, Ratan? It's just not possible. You have a bright future ahead of you. You will do very well." And with these parting words, he picked up his luggage and walked down the hill, got into the steamer boat, turned back to see Ratan. Ratan stood there, waving and smiling. And there was a kind of a stoic acceptance that only villagers and people who have seen difficult times will accept it. So, this is a very poignant story where Tagore writes about loneliness and the connection between a young man and a very young girl. And he couldn't have taken her with him at all. That wasn't possible. So, with a heavy heart, and there was an unspoken bond, but the postmaster had to leave Ratan behind. He walked away, and Ratan stayed back. We don't know what happened. But all I know is this is a true story. This is again Tagore's own story, which he, wrote in this short story, The Postmaster. So, did you like that story?
Yes. I like to think that she stayed behind and became the postmistress.
Yes, I would like to think too. Yes, absolutely. He left the ending, he didn't finish it. And that's the beauty of short stories.
Yes.
So, Baba, see, I'm going to end with one Panchatantra story. Remember, I spoke to you about the elephant. So,
Yes.
this is an elephant story, elephant and a dog, actually.
And before you
So,
tell the story, I got to tell a very bad joke because now you're
oh,
talking about the elephant in the room.
right. That's right.
All right. We're listening. Our ears are agape. We're listening.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this is a bedtime story. So, I will leave this story since it's already past midnight in India, in Mumbai. So, I will take this story to sleep. So, it's called a bedtime Panchatantra story. Story about the elephant and the dog. Long, long ago, there lived a king who had a deep affection for all animals. He loved animals, especially elephants. He had built a very large stable for his royal elephant. In India, you will find elephants, and in the olden days, kings rode on elephants. So, elephants were part and parcel of every kingdom. So a caretaker was appointed to make sure that all the needs of the royal elephant were met. The king had also ordered that special nutritious food to be served to the elephant every day to keep him healthy. So the elephant's keeper, or the mahout, as we call them, caretaker, took care of the elephant very well under the orders of the king. One afternoon, a stray dog entered the royal stable. The elephant was resting under a shady tree. The dog spotted the food left over by the elephant and ate to its heart's content. The elephant saw the dog eating the leftover food. From that day on, the elephant gladly let the dog share his food. Soon the two became very good friends. The dog started staying in the stable, and the caretaker too did not mind it. Soon the dog too became very healthy. He had come, probably, he was very thin, lean, but then after eating all that healthy food, he became healthy. One day, a farmer saw the dog and he asked the caretaker if he could sell if he would sell the dog to him. He offered good money for the dog. Although the dog did not belong to the caretaker accepted the money and gave the dog to the farmer. After the farmer took the dog away, the royal elephant became very sad. He missed his friend. He lost his only friend in the royal stable. He missed his friend during meal times and refused to eat or drink and soon became very weak. The news of the elephant's failing health quickly reached the king. He rushed to the royal stable to inquire. The caretaker knew why the elephant was so desolate and refused to eat food and water, but he did not speak up because he was scared. He was afraid that if the king came to know that he sold the dog, which was not rightfully his, he would be punished. So he feigned ignorance. The royal vet was called to check the health of the elephant. The king spared nothing. He cared for his royal elephant. Even after a thorough examination, the vet was unable to ascertain as to why the elephant was not eating and drinking. He concluded that being an emotional animal, perhaps the elephant was very sad about something. The king's guards questioned all the servants in the stable and finally found out what could be the reason for the elephant's sorrow. They got to know about the dog who lived with the elephant and was his close friend. They also got to know that the dog had been sold, and they got to know that the dog had been missing. but they didn't know as to why, what had happened to the dog. The king called his chief minister, told him about the whole situation, and asked him to find a solution. Upon the chief minister's suggestion, an announcement was made in the entire kingdom. Heralds were sent, proclamation was done that whoever had the dog should return it immediately and he would be rewarded handsomely. The king's heralds went out to the villages, nearby villages, and they proclaimed the king's message. The farmer heard this announcement and immediately reached the king's palace along with the dog. He told the king that he had bought the dog from the caretaker of the royal elephant. The caretaker was called immediately and questioned, and the poor man confessed selling the dog, even though he had no right to do so. The king ordered the dog to be returned to the stable alongside the elephant. The caretaker was ordered to return the farmer's money. He was also ordered to look after the dog as well, along with the elephant, with a warning not to separate the two. The royal elephant was so happy to see his friend back, and food was served to both of them, and they ate together and were never parted again. So, thank you. That was a bedtime story about the elephant and the dog. And like I said, Panchatantra stories were taught, they were actually fables, teaching tales that would teach us as to how to live a just life, a kind life, and be good human beings. So, thank you from me. That's all from me for now. And
Well, you said
anything,
your mother-in-law or your mother injured herself.
my mother-in-law. She had a little accident today. She burnt herself. Hot tea, uh, got poured on her chest.
Ouch.
So yes,
So
so
we're
it has
sending
kind of.
prayers. We're
Yes,
sending
thank you
prayers and
so
healing
much.
to her. And let her know
Yes,
that we in the World Storytelling Cafe.com community wish her a speedy and complete recovery.
thank you, Babasi. Yes, because she is 87 and there are blisters. So the
Ouch.
doctor just left about half an hour back. So luckily we got a skin specialist to come and see her.
Good, 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 good.
Thank you very much for the stories. And I couldn't help
Thank
but
you.
see your background because there's a book called, I forget the translation, but it's called The Ocean of Streams of Story.
Ah.
Yes.
So
Yes, actually, this is a very divine lake, actually, Lake Mansarovar. So you have in Tibet, you have this plateau, and there is a lake of surpassing beauty, and this is the lake. And then you have the mountain, which is Mount Kailash, which is supposed to be an embodiment of Shiva, Lord Shiva.
Okay.
So, this is the lake in Tibet. And I know everybody wonders how come there are waves, but this is, and that's the picture I have behind me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Because, and
Yes.
you're, and I won't tell you have to go now, but I found your stories very inspirational and very, very good to hear.
Thank
yes,
you,
I agree.
Norman.
I don't know
Yes.
why my video cut out. It did it on
Yes,
its
I
own.
think Baba, see, your video is gone, but we can hear you.
Right.
Nevertheless,
I don't know what's going on in the video. I didn't do it. But I enjoyed your stories. I was going to ask King Louis if he wanted to say something real quick just before you go.
Yes, it's. I love your stories. They are amazing. Thank you for joining us to listen to stories. It's amazing.
thank you, Louis.
And
Thank you.
Louis is kind of our official uh, Stories for Children ambassador. because he's been with us for so long. In fact, I remember when he was little Louis. He's not little anymore. You know. Well,
How
thank
old
you.
are you? How old are you?
I'm 19 now because it's my birthday last week.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
So,
Um,
Norman, is it very cold in Toronto?
Not. Uh,
Norman,
it
I got to
depends what you
interrupt you because
consider very
Zoom.
cold.
I just
The
got to
weather's
notice it.
gotten a little warmer, but there's still snow everywhere. So
Okay.
it feels warmer, but 3 days ago, you had to really bundle up to go outside. So, but it still feels warmer now. So what is cold depends on how you look at it. But it is, we're still waiting for spring here.
Okay. Sorry, Babasi, you were saying something?
No, I got this strange notice from Zoom, and it might um, terminate my
Okay.
connection. So I just want to say
Okay.
if I disappear suddenly, but if I do, Norman, would you tell people? Well, let me tell people what's upcoming. And Usha, if you need to take your leave, we understand. And again, we're all wishing and praying for your mother-in-law's speedy and complete recovery.
Thank you. Thank you, Babasi. And good night from Mumbai. And enjoy stories and find inspiration. And sometimes inspiration is right there at the end of your nose, and we fail to see it. So that was from me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Norman. I'll take your leave and see you soon, maybe in a couple of months' time.
Yes, perhaps in Marrakesh.
Yes, Marrakesh is a year away, but I'm looking forward to it, and I hope this time I can spend the whole 10 days in Marrakesh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then. Good
Safe
night
journeys.
from me. Bye bye. Good evening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.